Hall of Famer Grant Hall joining us on the Lewis Automotive Hotline. Longtime sports writer and sportscaster covering the Razorbacks. Grant, where are you on a Wednesday? Sounds like I know you're in a happy place this morning.
Well, I was at the Blessings, and I watched all 10 Arkansas golfers tee off at 10:15 and 10:30 at number one. And then I heard you talking about food a while ago, so now my wife and I are getting ready to eat at Hugo's. And then I'm going to go back and watch more. You know, it takes about 6 or 7 hours for those golf rounds. So Hunter Yurachek was out there watching at the first tee, introduced him to some of the players' families, you know, and but he was working his phone pretty good, I noticed.
Oh, yeah. What do you think's going on in that? Yeah. Sure, there's all kinds of questions being fired at him. But hey, it's like the script's all there in front of us for these next 9 weeks. You know, every coach that's got a good group of 5 program is going to be asked about the future in their program moving forward, and they'll have 18 different ways to answer it. Bobby Petrino's got the most. It's one of the more different job interviews or auditions that I've ever seen. What do you think we see? You know, I guess it starts at Tennessee next week. What kind of improvement can you get?
Well, he wasted no time changing the staff pretty significantly, and you've talked about it. I think he feels if they're going to have a chance defensively going forward, they had to do this. It's interesting that both Stan Pittman and Hunter Yurachek had kind of called out the defense publicly, you know, before this thing happened. And I heard you talking yesterday about kind of maybe a divide on the team. Another thing I think may have been going on, too, you know, that you hear that these reports that some of the guys weren't getting their NIL money on time or whatever. And then the other side of that is I've been told by some UA administrators that the guy, you know, some of the guys were paid through July on that and then weren't fulfilling all of their, you know, you don't just get NIL money for free. There are things you need to do, obligations, go around and to the different things you're supposed to do. So I guess that was a two-way street. You know, you mentioned the candidates or the potential candidates, and what do you do? I mean, is Rhett Lashley supposed to say no comment? If he says no comment, then, oh, well, wow, you know, and then I thought he did a pretty good job of deflecting it and being honest about it. You know,
let me cut in real quick here, Grant, and ask and redirect this a little, because of some of the, you know, if some of the things that you're talking about are true, those are administrative issues. You know, the administrative side, department things, not necessarily football. So is this reversed a little? The idea that, well, these other coaches are auditioning for Arkansas. What about Arkansas and the Razorback athletic department auditioning for all the coaches? Because that's, you know, they don't want to worry about any of those things. They just want to coach a football. Put a team together, you know, figure out the dollars and cents with it, and then let the administration worry about how the dollars and cents get there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like with Red, you hear all kinds of things about, well, he needs $9 billion a year plus a commitment for all kinds, you know, the money to be competitive at Arkansas, and everybody knows he's in a conference that's not as tough week in and week out as the SEC. He's got a good situation at SMU. You know, if you come to Arkansas, I think Mike Irwin was telling me he counted up 9 coaches fired or something like that in the last number of years, and you know, you're 42 years old if you're Red. And at 46, you might be looking at either a career, you know, or maybe going to a lesser job or something. So it has to be, you're right. I mean, the university has to present itself in the best light. And Wally Hall wrote a thing today mentioning that Arkansas has 4 Fortune 500 companies: Tyson, Walmart, J.B. Hunt, and Murphy USA. Well, one of the one that fans keep salivating about he's talking about the Waltons, and they're really not involved in football. You know, Tyson has obviously gotten really involved in basketball at Arkansas. I'm hearing that J.B. Hunt, the representative or two of J.B. Hunt, might be willing to pay the money it would take to get Rhett Lashley, if indeed that's what Arkansas decides to do. But, you know, he's 2-2 right now in this season with a lot of season to go, so that part could change. A lot of people think Barry Odom would like to come back here, and that believe it or not, there's some thought that Bobby Petrino would be willing to be the OC under Barry. You know, I don't know about all that, and plus he's at a place that hasn't won very much. He's won a couple of games this year. But again, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of a moot point if Bobby can go out there and get this team playing a lot better and win a few games. And that would be maybe the most seamless transition where you wouldn't have to pay all kinds of money for this and that and, and a new staff and all that stuff. So it's a tough situation. I know that I heard that Chuck Barrett yesterday morning guaranteed, and I'm sorry, Chuck, if I was told that he said that Hunter Yurachek would be hiring the next football coach, and then you hear other people saying that maybe not be the case unless it is to be Bobby Petrino. So, I'm sure that, Hunter hears all this stuff too. Any kind of job like that these days is very tough, especially, I would think, AD in the big money era.
Grant, I've been following Arkansas football for 20, 30 years. I know you've been following Arkansas football for a while. Where does this rank on, how bad this is right now? Like, am I blowing it out of proportion? Because to me, this is like the worst it's ever been. If you want to say the Citadel loss and then how they got it, but this, you're 2 years removed from firing your OC. You just fired the head coach. There was definitely some type of schism there. If you're firing 3 defensive coaches, where are we right now? Are we the worst team in the SEC? And then what does it mean when you say if Bobby gets them playing good, or what does that look like to say, well, okay, yeah, he is what does he have to do to be the next head coach?
I would think, Matt, he'd have to win a couple of games and play competitively in some other ones, and that people notice the big difference in effort. I remember all the way back to when Joe Kynes came as an interim. And I remember the late Dean Weber telling me that he thought if they just won about 4 games that Joe might keep the job. Well, he ended up winning 3. And, of course, Danny Ford got that job. And so who knows? I don't know if there's a number on it so much as just, is there a big difference in how they play? Do they look competitive? I believe you're right. Right now, it does look like the worst program in the SEC. And this is despite the fact that they were within a fumble of having a great chance to beat Ole Miss, which is now number 4 in the country. So, so much of it is effort, attitude, energy, as Frank Broyles used to say about coaching, teaching, persuading, motivating, all that stuff. And they just, I think, Matt, you said you left with 3 minutes left in the first half, right?
Yes, sir.
On Saturday.
Yes, sir.
I left the first game of the first time in 70 years. I left a game at halftime, the first game of the season, after seeing the way the defense played early in that ball game. And it wasn't. I had to walk about a mile in my car, and I was going to get stuck in traffic. So there was a logistic reason too. But I've heard others have done that. Someone told me they saw 3-4 members of the Board of Trustees confabbing in the third quarter in the stadium the other day. The look is you can't have that look. Frank Broyles they used to say he was obsessed with empty seats. Well, there weren't empty seats at the start of the game, but there were for toward the end. So it felt like that move had to be made, just considering all that stuff.
Well, there was some hope and excitement going into that football game. The next time Arkansas plays at Razorback Stadium is against Texas A&M. So that's after the Tennessee game. And I think even the most jaded Bobby Petrino supporter that wants him to be the head coach would understand here that there's going to need to be a turnaround of some sort that you see here. So you say, well, get back to being the team you were against Ole Miss. How can you get back to that? Now, maybe there were some deficiencies that were exposed in that game that Memphis and certainly Notre Dame took advantage of. But part of the problem for me right now, Grant, is if you take away the idea of the coaches, you have a certain set of players that were given an opportunity to be Arkansas Razorbacks and starters, and yet when they were out there in certain situations, You know, and I didn't allow a couple of callers to question effort in the Memphis game. That Notre Dame game, you could see it.
There were guys
melt
going
away.
wide open. I've never seen so many offensive players on Notre Dame. He would throw the ball, and there wouldn't be anybody on our defensive side within 5 yards of him, and it was horrendous.
Is it really just message, Grant? Is it really just schism with the two sides? You know, it's you see where I'm going. If you can give up then, what makes anybody believe in you now with 7 games left?
Yeah, and it's interesting. Right now, the Arkansas football program is about where the United States Ryder Cup team is in golf.
Oh.
It just feels like, Europe has had this great plan. They've got great organizations. They out-prepared the team. They did so much better on the first 6 holes because they were out there 3 days longer. They figured it all out, And you can see how good the American team was by how they played in singles. They tied the record, 8.5 points on Sunday, and yet the blend didn't work, and it hasn't been working. And they've been piecemealing this thing, and I think it's time for another study on what everybody can do. I don't know if Arkansas has hit rock bottom because it sure didn't look like it in the Ole Miss game. But man, that last drive in the first half. After the fumble, against Notre Dame was kind of the one that was kind of seemed like when it kind of dawned on everybody, man, you just can't have this.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, H-O-G-S, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.